Welcome back to our Carinine Aug, which we're sharing in a conversation with Bishop Hall on Christian compassion, on the showing of compassion, on the necessity for Christians to understand that we must recognize human need and be responsive to human need as a divine order that Jesus shows us this in the parable of the Good Samaritan, how that is so essential if we take the gospel message seriously. And I believe that one of the challenges for the church today in the Bahamas is to take up the call of Jesus to be the compassionate society. Not in word, but in deed.
Yes.
Now, in saying that, I recognize, for example, that most churches have some form of what they call social relief.
Yeah.
Some have soup kitchens, some give meals or a day or two of the week, and engage in some cases in giving food and clothing, etc. to people. That's one way of responding to a particular set of needs, which are common and which are increasing.
Yes.
Because there is no doubt that the cost of living in the Bahamas has been rising. It's almost, in some respects, I believe it is a bigger challenge than the murder and the violence in terms of the hardship that so many family units are experiencing because of the high cost of living.
Right.
And it just seems to be getting higher. I even noticeable that despite the fact that the Bamsi vegetable products are coming into the market now, we don't see a reduction in prices. I mean, it seems to me to be almost self-defeating. But the reality is that in our society, not only is labor high, but the cost of living is excessive. And so this creates need. And in so many instances, it creates dire need. And if the church is to be the compassionate society, it should be, and I think should be acting, I would like to see us acting on an ecumenical basis. But I see us as churches coming together to form a kind of, not quite international, certainly a national agency for the display of compassion, not just in food and clothing, but the whole range of human need that we encounter, that the church could get together, first of all, to be advocates, to be engaged in the advocacy, that is, acting on behalf of others.
Of course.
Just as the Samaritan acted on behalf and did what he could and put the chap on the donkey and took him away. But we, in our society, we need to be advocates to help, I think, especially those who have. I think that the temptation for people who have made it, I don't like to use the word rich so much because I think perhaps well off might sound a little better than the rich, but those who have been blessed with material success, some of them display a real serious hardness of heart. They really isolate themselves from the rest of the society. And this whole push to live in gated communities, so you get away from the maddening crowd and you get a false sense of security. But we need to be advocates as a church to be able to help these people to get a better understanding of what it means to be human, that I am just a human being, and how all of us as human beings belong together. We are we are brothers keeper, our sisters keeper, because we all share in this human race, and in our particular context, we are all Bahamians, we are one entity. And this in itself should make us more aware of the others and more sensitive to their state, and that should create in us a desire to do what we can to help.
Most Bahamians go to some church.
Oh, yes.
Most Bahamians go to church somewhere.
Some more frequently than others.
Indeed. Some more involved than others, but most Bahamians go to a church. So what you're saying is that if we could get several different denominations to agree with a social consciousness that we are going to target. We're going to put together a program that will help the social services, the government, to do more, and churches to do more to help the least, the lost, and the left out. I think it would be in keeping with the social consciousness we see Jesus selling in this parable, that we should be in our pulpits, that we should take a doctrinal approach in sounding the message, but at the same time, people are poor. I've said on this show before, the poor and the rich, the poor and the financially stable, they go to church. Some of them are in the same church.
Oh, yes.
So they must be hearing two different Jesus.
Or two different gospels.
Two different gospels at least.
Or some not hearing at all.
Indeed. So we have to make it sensible, we make it, push it as best we can, that the poor will find creative ways to lift themselves. And the rich will find other ways, will listen to the hardness of our society and respond to it.
But
if the church could do that.
But in terms of advocacy, it means not just getting in the pulpit and attacking people.
No.
But it means arranging sort of seminars and
Of course,
opportunities
of course.
to relate to people and to try to get them to improve the level of understanding. Because I think that in a lot of instances is really an unwillingness to understand the plight of certain people.
Yes.
Some don't want to know.
Yes.
Because the fact that I am made aware
Yes.
presents a moral challenge that I
For me to
don't
participate.
want to face
Yes,
up to.
indeed.
So it is better if I don't hear.
Don't forget that the environment in which Jesus told the parable of the Good Samaritan was where they came and they questioned Jesus.
Yes.
The lawyer
they
was
wanted to put him
questioned.
to the test.
Exactly.
They said they were going to put him a trap.
Yes. This was a question and answer
that's
period.
good.
We must create as a church that kind of session. Mind you, when you're preaching, all they say is amen.
Yes.
If you get that.
Yeah.
But in a seminar kind of environment, sponsored by 7 or 8 different denominations around the theme, how can we help people?
And how can we increase the awareness? Because I think the awareness building is of extreme importance, because I think a lot has gone on in the Bahamas, certainly in the last 30 years, or even say the independence, 40 years. The period of independence has seen so many changes
Yes.
in the country,
Yes.
and a lot of separations have taken place in terms of moving away from our past and our heritage. So if we can help to create an understanding of what's going on now,
Yes.
what the Bahamas is really like now, and where some of us are reluctant to even admit that we have a problem of poverty.
Yes.
Some people don't want to admit that.
I think one of the things that was peculiar to the generation of 40, 50 years ago, where people cared for one another, extended families,
Families.
that transcended your religion or your denomination, was the fact of compassion.
Yeah, and we found it far stronger in the family island.
Of course.
It's
Oh, definitely.
Far stronger.
Definitely.
Where communities
Yes.
existed.
Much of
And
that.
people lived in community and
Yes.
shared and showed care for one another in a far better way than
It
we
is
ever-
diminishing on the family
Yeah,
islands,
no.
but it is still far greater than it is in New
Providence.
Providence. I think the thing that differentiated the community of long ago to today is the fact of human compassion, understanding. My neighbor, take this for Miss so-and-so, take this, I heard she was sick, let's go and do this.
But if you don't create that climate
Yes.
of understanding, it makes life far more difficult, and it makes it even harder for us to express compassion.
I also wish to proffered the point that some churches think that if you just pray and be nice, that these things will come about. I think the prophet of old was confrontational. I think some people are poor because of the bad judgments
And the structures in which we
and the
live,
structure of our society. And I think we should pray, but I think we should be aware and intelligent and willing to speak and write at a different level to that phenomenon. When we feed the poor or clothe the naked, people say, oh, the church is doing well. But when we ask, why are these people poor and why are these people without clothes? You know,
and
they say,
why do we lack all of these
of these things, you know,
that we should have as a society?
They say you get involved in politics. But, you know.
Yeah, but who were more political than the 8th century prophets?
That's the point.
All of them.
They were confrontational.
And they addressed the issues in the society, and they addressed them in a very direct and aggressive
fashion. Yes, indeed.
Very aggressive.
Yes, most aggressive. And we have to. Those who are listening and seeing us today, we ask you to find ways by which you can be more compassionate, by which you can show more care. I read somewhere again that compassion and love are twins.
Yes. The compassion is the expression of love.
Is the expression of love. You know, you can't say you love a person
and then do nothing
about it.
But I think that if we could get together on an ecumenical basis, we could promote a stronger advocacy on behalf of the needy. If in every church that message is being preached, but also if in every congregation we can be asking people to come and participate in seminars and workshops and help us to carry this message forward, that could prove to an immense change in attitudes.
What if such a group were organized, I say 7, 10 denominations, and agree that the fifth Sunday, when the fifth Sunday comes along, the message will be around how the church can help in more direct ways to alleviate, to address poverty. What if we got that on an ecumenical basis across the nation and do something more concrete? And you're right, Bishop, but you and I have talked about this privately. I think we need to get some denominational heads in the same room thinking as we are thinking, that there need to be a national movement where we're not talking denominational doctrine or denominational structure. We agree on a simple area that as many of us as possible will structure an understanding of what we could do for a more compassionate society.
We must take our second break at this point.